Following Jeffrey Epstein's 2019 arrest, federal agents conducted high-profile raids on his private Caribbean island. His Manhattan townhouse and Palm Beach estate dominated the headlines, thoroughly mapped and analyzed by investigators and the global press. Yet, in the high desert of New Mexico, a massive 10,000-acre estate sat virtually untouched, a potential crime scene that federal authorities chose to ignore. The largest physical footprint of the 21st century's most notorious criminal enterprise simply fell off the justice system's radar. To understand how, we have to look at the specific design of this desert fortress. The property features a 26,700 square foot mansion positioned defensively on a high ridgeline, commanding a 360-degree view of the surrounding desert. This 10,000-acre perimeter provided strategic dominance, building a self-sustaining infrastructure hidden from public roadways. The estate included a private airstrip and hangar, allowing the network to transport victims directly, bypassing FAA and TSA checkpoints. Verified flight logs and court records established that this isolated hub was heavily used for trafficking, allowing individuals to enter and depart the heart of New Mexico without ever leaving a public footprint. Zorro Ranch functioned as a highly controlled paramilitary-style logistical black site, designed to operate entirely outside the purview of the outside world. The high desert mesa weaponized the natural geography. Massive thermal shifts, a lack of water, and miles of uninterrupted sightlines meant there were no neighbors to scream to and no survivable walk to a main highway. Legal loopholes further fortified the perimeter. Despite a prior conviction in Florida, Epstein was never required to register as a sex offender in New Mexico, freeing him from the mandatory police monitoring that usually follows such a crime. The state even inadvertently subsidized the compound by leasing 1,200 acres of public state trust lands to Epstein's corporate entities for over a quarter of a century. This combination of the lethal natural topography and blind state legislation created a sovereign, impenetrable ecosystem for predators. In the summer of 2019, New Mexico state authorities were prepared to aggressively investigate the property, probing leads they believed were still viable for prosecution. However, internal emails show that federal prosecutors from the Southern District of New York explicitly requested that New Mexico hold their investigation, arguing it would interfere with the federal case. New Mexico stood down out of deference to federal authority, but the federal government never picked up the baton, essentially abandoning the compound following Epstein's death. Deliberate federal suppression and multi-jurisdictional failure kept the ranch's operations hidden for years, leaving an egregious hole in the legal record. In 2026, United Nations experts officially classified the documented atrocities within the network as potential crimes against humanity, citing their systematic transnational reach. This international scale was underscored by the 2026 arrests of high-profile figures in the UK, including former Prince Andrew and Peter Mandelson, for misconduct in public office. Because the ranch had its own private firehouse, airstrip, and 10,000-acre buffer, it offered a level of sovereign secrecy that urban townhouses couldn't match, making it the ideal environment to trade market-sensitive state intelligence for access to the compound's illicit services. Ultimately, Zorro Ranch functioned as an impenetrable vault for global elite collusion, where the lack of commercial records or public oversight made geopolitical blackmail virtually untraceable. The 2026 Epstein Files Transparency Act legally forced the DOJ to release 3 million documents, shattering the decades-long seal around the New Mexico property. New Mexico responded by funding a powerful truth commission with settlement money from banks complicit in Epstein's activities, granting the committee subpoena power and the authority to compel witness testimony. In March 2026, state investigators launched a massive 11-day search operation, deploying specialized aerial drones and human remains detection canines to comb the 10,000-acre estate. The deployment of state technology across the mesa signals the definitive physical end to a 25-year era of willful institutional blindness. The isolation of the ranch naturally breeds a maelstrom of unverified internet rumors, from illegal tipster photos to claims of eugenics fantasies. However, authorities are urging the public to separate these dark speculations from the verified reality of systemic trafficking already proven in court dockets. The 2026 investigations reached a critical turning point as local New Mexico survivors began stepping forward to build viable criminal cases alongside the Truth Commission. The legacy of Zorro Ranch demonstrates that extreme geographic isolation paired with limitless wealth can create black holes in justice, requiring relentless global transparency to maintain the rule of law.